Welcome to the afternoon session segment for the Mahindra Kabira Festival's 8th edition. I believe a lot of you have just now returned from our specially curated heritage walks. Some of you are coming back from the Kashi Vishwanath temple. Those of you who have not gone on these offerings till now, there is still the afternoon, there is still tomorrow. You must have on your way currently discovered what makes this city truly enigmatic, evocative, and so special. Not only by walking through its many streets, lanes, ghats, going into its temples and mosques, walking up and seeing the Sherwali Koti or the Morwali Koti, but also by the simple fact of sitting on these ghats and observing the eternal flow of Ganga as the backdrop. It truly is a very, very serene and beautiful experience. And sometimes it just so happens that we want to capture these experiences in forms visual, artistic, poetic, and that is going to be the sense of the conversations that we have for today. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Archana Sharma on the stage for our very first conversation of the afternoon. Dr. Archana Sharma is the principal staff scientist at CERN Geneva. But today she is here to talk about a very special book project, her visual capturing of the city of Varanasi.
Good afternoon, namaste.
As I told all of you before we began this conversation that Dr. Sharma is the principal staff scientist at CERN. And if you haven't already heard of CERN, which I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, you do use it every day when you type in www. That is what CERN truly owes its scientific intelligence to, among many other things. And the last time that we met Dr. Sharma, we were actually meeting in a different avatar, which was your avatar as a scientist. We were talking about we were talking about Higgs boson, we were talking about the God particle. But today's conversation is also not that different. We are talking about gods, we are talking about particles, but those that we find in the philosophical realm, in the photographic realm, and in this city of Varanasi. Before we go into your life as a scientist, as a writer, as somebody who's now visually captured Varanasi, I would like to take you back to your years in Banaras, because Dr. Sharma did her education from the Banaras Hindu University. She comes from Jhansi though. So tell us about those transformative years and then we'll talk about how they pulled you back.
Once again, good afternoon and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Indeed, I come from Jhansi, a little town about 400 kilometers from here. And of course, when I finished my school education, my parents wanted to send me to a good university. And especially I was interested in sciences and technology. So in the Bundelkhand area, there was no university which my parents could trust their daughter to, and they looked around to see where can we send her. And Banaras was the obvious choice because my parents knew the professor and principal of the Madan Mohan Malviya Women's College, and they entrusted their daughter to her, and I was under her wing for 6 years at Banaras Hindu University doing science and physics.
So you were pursuing the sciences in a city that is actually renowned for its spiritual bent, and there is that coexistence. It does not contradict. That is something that continues to be a thread in all your works, which we will come to. But I want to talk about when you graduated from Banaras Hindu University, then you went ahead, you did a PhD from Delhi, you went to CERN, then did your PhD from there. But something called you back. The ghats called you, the temples called you, the little doorways of Banaras called you back. And then you spent 10 years working on this book right here, which is a book that is a compilation of photographs, of poetry, of verse, of prose. What pulled you back to Banaras and what made you do this book?
First of all, I must say that Banaras is a city, as all of you are experiencing it. It's not where you live, but which is where you experience life. And what you do not get to learn in a classroom or at a university is what is the air, what you breathe in Varanasi. The traditions, the rituals, and the madness, if I can say so, that goes around you just remains with you. Because you believe, I believe that, I've come on the planet and I will go away one day, but what is it that that will be remaining of me? I mean, we are close to the Manikarnika Ghat and I'm sure you must all know about it. In the end, you will wither away, but what will remain is what you have lived and what you have left, in terms of meaningful conversations or experiences. And I must say that despite the fact that BHU is a well-known university, not many people know that there is a very big nuclear physics department in the science faculty. And I'm proud to say that today, after 42 years, I am meeting my classmate, Mr. Shekhar Srivastav, who is right here, and we have studied together on the benches of that physics department. And each person of that class has gone on to do some amazing things, if I can say so. So the experience of those 6 years living in Varanasi, also coming out from a very comforted cocoon of a family in Jhansi, and coming here, going through the ghats, the gullies, the Vishwanath gully and all that, and then in the university, making new friends coming from all over the country. I mean, that is a huge change when you step out from your family and step out from your little hometown where you almost know everybody and everybody knows you. So that change is a very impressionable change, and you connect with every person you meet and every interaction that you have, whether it's in your classroom or whether in particular in Banaras, is this experience of living Banaras, and that's what brings me back here rather frequently, I must say.
You said something very interesting in the beginning when you said that there is a pull which is almost mysterious and magical too. And that is a thread that you also explore, as I said, even if you're thinking about the Big Bang Theory, or questions like, why are we here? And when you cross the Manikarnika Ghat and you see the dance of life and death, which is also something that you capture in the book, in the photographs, in the prose and verse, you truly begin to ask these existential questions. But still, there is a sense of closure in Varanasi. Do you feel that?
Absolutely. I think that closure is the word that is very relevant here. And closure in everything in life is very important. I believe that this book itself, for me, is a living being which has brought a lot of closure in terms of the questions that I asked when I was living in Varanasi. And when you are young, you have so many questions, so many experiences that you cannot imagine or you cannot answer. There's a huge amount of nostalgia as well. And the nostalgia is not anything tangible that you can go and pick it up and do something about it. And in fact, when you come back, everything is different. You have your memories which are different. So to bridge the gap is what the book is about, The book is about closure, and as I said earlier, what is it that I want to live and lead as a life here?
So let's talk about how you've bridged the gap, because if you go through the book and see its photographs, and we'll tell you at the end of the session how all of you can see the photographs, But if you go through them, you will see the various modes of Varanasi that have been captured. There are various themes, be it the morning rituals, be it the boat rides, be it children dipping into the water, be it the women of Banaras. So how was the segmenting and sectioning of the book done? What was in your mind then?
So here I must bring on board the mention of my team, because no work of this kind, which takes 10 years to do, can be done alone. So I have a beautiful friend, Rajesh Kumar Singh, and another friend, Anil Sharma, whom I met in Geneva. And we just were talking, just like we are talking over here. And I said, I lived in Varanasi and I've studied there and all that. And he had just published his earlier book. He is an Air Force, he's in the airlines, So he was involved in the Kandahar hijacking. He wrote a book about that. And I was just thinking, why don't we, do something together for Varanasi? And then came Rajesh, who is also a brilliant photographer. And we just started threading things together on how we could, put these stunning photographs. We had 10,000 photographs, by the way. Because you know that Varanasi from every angle is a story. Where do you pick and which story do you pick? So we wanted to relate this to the tradition, to the legacy, and to the history, because Varanasi has been there since time existed, if I can say so. So how do you bring that and crystallize that into a book? We wanted to bring also one point out, that any time, especially for myself, as I live abroad in Switzerland, people ask, oh, Varanasi, oh, the Babas there, oh, the Saperas there, that's the kind of narrative that you would get to hear. And I wanted to bust that myth. First of all, scientists also come from Varanasi. And in addition, there is a lot more beyond what you see on the ghats in Varanasi. So bringing out the history, bringing out the rituals, the rituals that one does in the morning, the rituals done in the evenings, the rituals of life, birth and death, and all the Pitrapaksh rituals that are done. All these things have been well described in the book according to the life and according to the activities of the pertinent times in life. That's how we have divided the book.
You said busting the myth and also telling the story, the various stories that Banaras is home to. What is also interesting is, as you said, that this city has a homogenization of sorts, the view or the stereotype that a lot of cities sometimes are subjected to, the land of the snake charmers and the babas and the sadhus. But you have gone against that popular narrative in this book, as you say. But you have not only done it through photographs, right? There is poetry, there are descriptions, there is verse, and that's not it. There are more than 3 languages, which is very interesting to me. How does that come about? What were these 3 languages, and what was the reasoning behind it?
Thank you for the question, Eric. So first of all, I come back to what we started with, that Banaras is an experience. Which language can you describe it in? I mean, when I remember, I'll tell you an incident that my grandfather came to see me when I was studying in the physics department, because for him it was such a matter of pride, my granddaughter studying in BHU. He was living in Aligarh. He came all the way to see me in the hostel, and then he said, come with me to the Ganges, and I came here. And then imagine a young girl of 16, 17 years, you have to now take a dip in the Ganges. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And he says, no, you are here, Ganga Maiya ne bulaya hai, to tumhe isme dip lena padega. That's when I realized the power, that, and he went chanting his mantras and all that. He used to, pray 3 hours every morning. And those mantras stayed with me even today. Every time I hear, those visuals come up, that I had to take that dip, and I understood the meaning only 30 years later. So the language is just a medium, I would say. And whatever medium that I could bring into the book was English, Hindi, and Sanskrit, because Sanskrit to hamari dharohar hai, and Varanasi being a heritage city, and I may just say that Mrs. Ruchira Kamboj, ambassador to UNESCO, has actually written the foreword in the book, who was instrumental in giving Varanasi the status of a heritage city. So a lot has gone into this.
You said that it was a childhood memory too, right? Taking a dip in the Ganga. But you said something very interesting after that, that years later, you unlocked that.
Right.
And when we were talking earlier, you said you're always busting the myth from a scientific bent of mind. And this is where it gets interesting for, I think, all of us. Because we come to art festivals, we come to celebrate culture, we come to celebrate history, and we do not figure how science features in all of this. But if there's anything that Banaras teaches you, or even Kabir teaches you, the contradictions or the coexistence of the mind is what makes you. Do you think that this unlocking and going back to your childhood memories, this pull back to Banaras and to solve its mysteries is both spiritual and scientific? Where do you see that for yourself?
Okay, spirituality begins where science ends. And if I tell you, or if I were to tell my grandfather that today, let me pick up my mobile phone and speak to somebody in New York, is it a surprise for you? No. But for my grandfather, 30, 40 years ago, it would have been, he would laugh at me saying, is it feasible? Or if we were to say to people 100 years ago that we are going to go to the moon or to make space travel, they would say, are you crazy? Are you mad? So magic happens and science makes it happen. And art is the medium through which we can dream. And I would even dare to say that there are dreams that you don't even know are sitting inside you, and science can actually make this happen. So that's where my scientist and the artist comes together.
No, you had said earlier that you sometimes don't even think about those dreams and they become achievable. And as we said in the beginning, beginnings in Jhansi, Banaras Hindu University, and then you go on to win the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, which is the highest honor an Indian can receive who is living abroad, for your contribution to science and technology, which has been absolutely phenomenal. I think that deserves a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Dr. Sharma, tell us a bit more about your explorations for this book. When you were going through the city, what we hear often is that every moment is a frame. You may be seeing somebody praying or just sitting and contemplating on the ghats, or you may be coming in the boat, and those who came in the boat with us yesterday in that huge cruise, we were told about the stories of many ghats, and one ghat was कि इस घाट पे couples नहीं बैठ सकते साथ में, because अगर वो बैठते हैं तो बाद में लड़ाई होती है. And they said सास और बहू भी नहीं बैठ सकती क्योंकि बैठते हैं तो लड़ाई होती है, and if you don't believe it, please go take your saas and sit there. So we have these multiple stories in Banaras, and there is a story in every moment. Was that something that you also discovered while framing this book?
So I must say that while living in Varanasi, for me, every moment was so rich in something or the other, whether it was happiness or sadness or excitement or achievements. Because, being in the university is definitely a great experience. And I must say to any of the students here that live every single moment. Because unknowingly I did that. And I realized the value of those moments much later. Because then you look at life and you look at, the biggest university, which is like, travel and interacting with people and all that. I live in Switzerland, as I mentioned. So every frame there is also a photo frame, right? But then the meanings in a frame are what I get in Varanasi, in India, I would say first, and then you come to Varanasi. Obviously, every frame tells a story. 1,000 years ago, what would be happening here? Just imagine. And the kind of genes or the kind of heredity, the kind of knowledge that has come along with every generation is there. People are speaking the languages and they are using words and phrases which we use in every single day, handed down to us. So we owe it to our, forefathers, that we keep this heritage safe and we keep it pure, and we also grow on it, taking advice from it and take it further to posterity for our generations.
Absolutely. Keeping our heritage alive and capturing these moments and giving meaning to them is what you have done. Before I open up to the audience for questions, I would just like to ask you a final thing again about bridging the gap between the sciences and the arts, because right now also it just slipped in when you were talking about the city and the photographs. You said you can figure out people's genes and hereditary, and that time plays a very important role. And when we are in Banaras, we cannot not talk about time. We say words like eternal city, or we say things like before time. What do these words come to mean to a scientist who is also dealing with Banaras?
Okay, great. Good question. And I can now maybe put on my scientist avatar. So, you all have heard about the Big Bang, right? You have also heard about Einstein. And for me, it was a discovery when I learned for the first time that time and place go together. A place cannot exist if there is no time, and time cannot exist if there is no place. So, at the Big Bang, time happened. What happened before that is a question still open, and if you have an answer, you get the Nobel Prize. But once space happened and time happened, I think that as we went along 14.8 billion years ago, when the universe came into being, Banaras happened. And Banaras happened when the river came here and life came here. And the moment life started on the planet, I think Varanasi exists since then. It's really, as Mark Twain has said very famously, older than time, older than tradition, much older than legend, and twice as old as everything else, all of this put together. So I think it's existed from the time of time starting to exist.
Beautiful. And if you want to win the Nobel Prize, now you know what to do. Solve this mystery. But thank you so much, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you.
Truly, to remember Banaras in ways that go beyond the stories that we are familiar with, by capturing them through photographs, through prose and verse, it's truly, truly a very important contribution to saving the heritage, the tangible and intangible histories of Banaras. I would like to now open the question answers round to the audience. If we have any questions from the audience members, you can raise your hands and we'll send a mic over to you.
You can ask scientific questions too. I'm not sure if I can answer, but we can try.
No questions.
You can, any question.
Somebody said
there
it's
is no,
difficult.
there's no silly question, there's no stupid question. I always say that the stupid question is the one you didn't ask.
Is there a question over there?
Yeah,
Are you
there is
raising
a
your hand?
question.
Yes,
Yeah,
there is.
there too.
Over here too and over there too. We'll first go over here.
It's not a scientific question, but I heard or read that CERN has a Nataraja idol, very large one, in the courtyard or something, in front of it. How did it come about? I always wondered.
Ji.
Yeah, thank you.
So, as you know, that CERN is a European laboratory. The acronym is CERN, Centre Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire. And in this laboratory, Europeans got together after the Second World War to understand mysteries of the universe. Not the spiritual mysteries, but the scientific mysteries. What are we made of, and so on. To do that, there is a very large accelerator. What is the meaning of accelerator? Means just you take particles and you give it so much energy that when these particles collide, they recreate the Big Bang. It doesn't mean that we are recreating the universe. This is just in laboratory conditions in such a way that we can observe what happened at the time of the Big Bang. Just like, we believe in dinosaurs, but none of us has seen one, right? But we've seen the skeletons, we've seen the signatures. So we can see signatures of things or particles, or how at all our particles formed when the Big Bang happened. So to do that, to create this accelerator, to come to those energies, we need an incredible apparatus, incredible magnets, right? Because magnets can push these particles with so much energy so that we can come to these higher energies. To do this, these magnets are aligned in 27 kilometers. So 27 kilometers of magnets, superconducting magnets, two beams, which means 54 kilometers of magnets operating at minus 271 degree centigrade, okay, minus 271 degrees. To keep this in order, because imagine हम एक थर्मस में चाय भी लेके जाते हैं, वो ठंडी हो जाती है जब तक पिकनिक पे पहुंच के जाते हैं, right? So to keep this in operation, you need a very sophisticated cryogenic system. So being a European laboratory, they needed help because lots and lots of people were needed to commission these magnets. Indian scientists and engineers from BARC and RRCAT. RRCAT is Rajaramana Advanced Technology Center in Indore. So about 100 engineers came to CERN to do the commissioning of this machine. That is called the Large Hadron Collider. As a token of, let's say, gratitude for all this work, CERN rewarded all the scientists for the work, and India in turn for this commissioned work gave as a gift to CERN the big Nataraja, which indeed stands in a very prime location at CERN, very prime location, right in the center. The moment you go there, you cannot miss it, And it is, of course, a matter of pride for me as an Indian to walk past it every single day and be proud of being an Indian.
हेलो या हाँ डॉक्टर अर्चना शर्मा जी
कहाँ है?
हेलो
Yes, sorry.
माई सेल्फ विजय काबरा इफ यू रिमेंबर
Yes, Vijay. My classmate from MSc, correct?
yes I am still living in Banaras
क्या बात?
since then
जी.
like Banaras is a living city since antiquity. Thanks. My question is regarding time.
फंसा रहे हैं आप मुझे.
No. Still it is debatable whether is there anything like time or not. This is the question.
जी.
My opinion is that it is simply a scale which is needed to relate two events and not more than that. It doesn't exist like any matter or anything else.
You are absolutely right, and since you are a physicist, I know that you know the answer. है ना? आप मुझे टेस्ट कर रहे हैं.
No.
No, but you are right. It is a scale, a parameter to measure what happened. How do you define an event? You define an event X number of seconds ago, or years ago, or million years, billion years ago, and so on. So what is going to happen in the future? How do you measure all those things? These will also be measured with time. But the very important concept in particle physics and in relativity and so on is that space and time have to coexist. See, अभी देखिए आप हम लोग सब यहाँ बैठे हैं. 5 minutes ago, we were in another configuration, and that configuration does not exist anymore. Am I right? 3 days before I was in Delhi or in Geneva, that configuration does not exist. So that time factor of the coordinates where I was 2 days ago, 5 minutes ago, is a defined state of an event. And that doesn't exist anymore. ठीक है ना? Does it answer? Thank you.
Thank you. I do not think we have one last question which we'll take from Arun.
Everybody has to hear.
So, Dr. Sharma, in your experience seeking mysteries. You mentioned scientific mystery and spiritual mystery a short while ago. I'm just curious, in your trajectory, what have you found to be different about those two? As you have gone after a scientific mystery and then another, trying to find your answers, have you encountered a spiritual mystery which you have said, chalo isko rehne dete, scientific ke piche bhagte hain? What to your mind might be the difference between one and another?
Thank you for the question, Arun. I'm just trying to unfold and unpack your question because कोई किसी के पीछे तो भाग नहीं रहा है, पहली बात. We are curious human beings. You know, कोई अगर spirituality भी पढ़ रहा है, it is because they want to seek answers. You know, spiritual answers. Who are we? Where did we come from? Isn't that a question? So we formulate an answer in philosophy, in spirituality. We formulate an answer. हमारे होते हैं ना कि इतने योनियों के बाद हमको ह्यूमन बीइंग का अवतार मिलता है, ठीक है ना? So the spiritual world has its answers, and there are huge amount of plethora of explanations in the spiritual world. As a scientist, even if you remember कि 3 योनियों में होते हैं और 3 तत्व होते हैं जिससे कि योनि बनती है and so on, और बिग बैंग का भी मेंशन है in fact in our scriptures, you know, कि नाभिकीय what was it? Yeah, तो एक कुछ उसका मेंशन है उसमें, but जब आप उसको एज अ साइंटिस्ट देखते हैं तो यू वांट टू लुक एट डेटा, यू वांट टू लुक एट एक्सपेरिमेंटल प्रूफ ऑफ what am I saying. You know, if I say that I am, you know, 5'5", I have to measure and say that I am 5'5". मैं ऐसे ही तो फेंकूंगी नहीं ना कि मेरी क्या height है. Similarly, on everything, you know, the water in the Ganges or the, you know, the fish in the Ganges, यहाँ पे dolphins होती हैं. जब कोई अगर spot करूँगी तो बोलूँगी कि dolphins होती हैं. I won't believe you, right? तो spirituality can say anything, but as a scientist, I'm going to believe when we see data. And for the data, as I said earlier, that spirituality for me begins where the scientific measurements end. And the magic happens when philosophers and spiritual beings, they propose something. चांद के ऊपर जाना भी एक सपना ही था, but it came true with science and technology. So I believe that every aspect is as important as the other, because if you don't dream, you won't be able to go in that direction. So when you say science ke piche bhagna is somehow going behind magic and dreams and things that we haven't dreamt of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. And I think a good place to end is what you said, that we remain ever curious, but our curiosities, be it spiritual or scientific, ask the same question. Why are we here? What are all of us doing? And where does all of this go to? And what better way to answer these questions than in Banaras, a city older than time, as you said. Thank you so much for this conversation again.
Thank you.
I would just like to raise the book that Dr. Archana Sharma has written with the photographs and the prose and verse. And here's a little surprise for you. Dr. Sharma is actually allowing us to gift all of you this book as a PDF, a special delegate offering. So after today, all of you will receive a PDF of this book on your emails with the photography, with the prose, and with the verse that Dr. Sharma has remembered in the book. Thank you so much.